Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Days of Our Lives, December 19, 2025. So we start off with Kate and Ari. So Ari is there to meet with Kate regarding her internship, and Kate tells her that it went really well with the communication director, and the person wants to really meet with Ari and work alongside her. And she said she's excited about it, and she has one reservation. And Kate is like, "Are you not gonna accept the offer?" So she said, of course, but it's just, she's worried about how her mother may feel because her mother warned her about working for the mirror, and just the whole issue with getting swept up into the corporation, that is dangerous and yada yada. So Kate is saying that she understands it from a mom perspective because she's a mom and she's protective of her kids, and she gets that. But at the same time, Ari doesn't want her to control her life, and she wants to make decisions on her own, and she doesn't want to be seen as a nepo baby working for Gabby Chic because when the resume comes along and then other people want her, she wants to work at different jobs, they're going to look at the fact that she only worked for her mom and that she really didn't, she didn't really work hard for nothing. Basically, she doesn't want to be seen as a nepo baby, and Kate gets that from a business perspective, and she just urged her to look, make that decision. You don't know what might come of it and what other opportunities may arise, but you know it's better than to just be there working for your mom and all of that, and just it be looking like it's just nepotism that got you this far. So Ari said, okay, I'm gonna talk to my mom and let her know that I accepted the offer, right? No, Ari wasn't the only one taking advice from their grandparent. Johnny was also there talking to Roman because, he is kind of conflicted about what Rita spoke to him about regarding taking the CEO position at Demir temporarily until Theo and the rest of them are found. Nobody else can take it up. And, it's just a lot of issues that are arising if somebody does not take up that head position. So Roman is he has his opinions about it because he did say, Johnny, you did say you wasn't gonna work for the mirror because of your dad and because of the family reputation and getting swept up into that. And Johnny said, yes, I did say that, but now our family's in a crisis. Theo's not there to take on the position. We have 24/7 security, so I'm not worried about that at all, and it's just temporarily. And Rita did say, there's a lot of tax implications that, can happen if I do not take the position, right? And because of the merger, if things are not signed by a certain date, a lot of issues may arise because of that. And I have to be the one to take it over. So Roman says, look, I can't stand in your way of making a decision, but you know how I feel about it, and just think about it more. And at some point, Kate is there, and Johnny sees Ari and everything, and they chit chat a little bit, and she asks if she can see little Trey, and he said later on, so she said her goodbyes, and after that, Roman said, hey, think about what I just said, and then he leaves to deal with the delivery, and that's when Kate is there, and Kate is asking, hey, can I give you some unsolicited advice regarding the business, right? So Chanel speaks with Sarah about her test results. She is there for follow-up appointment, and Sarah tells her that her HCG levels are, skyrocket high. So Chanel is panicking. Chanel is wondering, like, is the cancer back? And, Sarah cannot rule it out because they have to do further testing, and the testing results won't be available until after the holidays. So Chanel is just really, sad about it all because she just wants to be there, especially now that she's a mom now. She wants to be there for her son. And, a lot is going on between Johnny and his family, and, Abe and Paulina and Theo missing. So she has to be strong for all of them and her son. And Sarah gets that, and Sarah says, look, you will be, you just need to process everything. And when the first time I heard Sarah said HCG levels high, I automatically think, girl, you're pregnant. Because remember, in the upcoming spoilers, Chanel does tell Johnny that she's expecting. So I think it's more about that rather than, the cancer coming back. Now, Gabby is starting back her first day of owning her own business. She's back at her own office, And she comes in there, and it is beautifully decorated with so many flowers. And it's Philip's doing. And she said, "What did I do to deserve this?" And he said, "I just wanted to celebrate, your first day back at your own business, and I'm proud of you and all of that." So he does invite her out for a night in the town, see the Christmas lights, pop open the champagne, just to basically, commemorate, her being back in her own business. So she says, she would like that, they talk a little bit more. And he said that it's been a rough year, and this has been really a breath of fresh air. And he likes that she likes his sense of humor, and that she's beautiful, smart, all of that, all of the above, blah blah blah. So yeah, at this point, they seem pretty solid. But solid is in quotation marks to me, because honestly, this whole secret with her doing what she did to backstab him and Xander out of their company and all of that, like, it's gonna come over. And this whole honeymoon phase, new relationship is just gonna go plop real soon. So we're back at the Demare Crypt again, and it's not just two Demares this time, but it's a group right now. So let's introduce Peter Blake. So the same Peter that they talk about off camera that has a portion of the votes at the board meeting. Yes, that Peter. So Kristen's brother. So he's there. He's the guy that's blindfolded, and Theo and Chad took off the blindfold, and they realize it's Peter. He's the latest Demare to be kidnapped and thrown into the Demare crypt. So again, he's wondering, like, how did he get here? Who did this? So Kristen is also there, and Kristen's happy to see her brother. Not under these circumstances, but yeah. So she introduces him to the rest of his family members, because they haven't really been formally introduced. So he's wondering, like, if EJ's behind this, because he was on his way to see, I guess, to help his mom or help their mom out. And they tell him that EJ is also here along with Tony. They're sleeping in the other side of the crypt. So he's saying, like, I guess that rules it out, but Kristen still thinks he's behind it, because EJ gets. But he said, let's just wait and see at this point, right? So he's there talking about who could possibly be behind this. So they think about, maybe it's an actual Demira, because they took out Theo. Theo is not an actual child of Stefano. He's a grandchild, but he is the CEO. So maybe they want them right there, just to get them out the way, to get in charge of the company and all of that. And you know they think about who else it could be, because the mayors like to backstab each other. So maybe Stefan could be behind it. And, Chad said Stefan has definitely dealt with him in the worst way ever. So if he's behind it, he should rot in hell, right? So at this point, they're trying to dig out their way again. And Kristen is getting fatigued. And the infection is setting in, the fever is rising up, and she's saying, like, I need to get back to my daughter. And she tells Peter briefly that she's in Bayview, and she really needs to get to her. She doesn't tell him the circumstances behind it, but she's digging. And they're telling her to just relax, just not do it. But she faints, right? Because at this point her body is weak, her body's compromised. And you just feel for her at this point, right? So back to the pub, Kate asks Johnny if she can give him, unsolicited advice. He tells her briefly that he's taking the Demare CEO position until the family members are fine, Theo is found. And he was just talking to his grandfather, and his grandfather is not really okay with it. But at the end of the day, like, he has to do what he has to do for the sake of the family. And Kate is saying that, look, this is great, and it would be great for both companies, because Titan is under a lot of strain and debt. And really being in charge now, it could help with the tax implications for our company as well. I care about both, and you being there would be helpful for that happening, right? So I think you should go forward with it. So Johnny accepts our advice and said, okay, yeah, I'll definitely go for it. So Kate is there, and while I think that Kate had Johnny's best interest at heart, really and truly, I thought she was there helping him, giving him real constructive advice. This woman was on the phone, I guess, with Philip or whoever, and basically saying that, with Johnny as CEO with no experience, this is gonna be a win for Titan, and we can just swoop in. So I guess Kate really proves that, she's really a shark underneath it all. Because I'm saying, how can you do this to backstab your husband's grandson? Come on, no, lady, like, come on, right? I guess business is business, right? It's that, she has no loyalty to other members outside of her actual family, even by marriage. Because, like, how could you do this to Roman's grandson? Like, stab him in the back like this. Like, why would you do that, right? And she's gonna say, "Oh, your job is guaranteed after you come back, and after Theo is back, you'll get back a job." Come on now. And Johnny is very naive because, like, why would you why would you why would you really think that your job is guaranteed after, Xander and Philip, would see that you're going back to the mirror? Like, again, loyalty is breach, and you did promise them that you weren't going to deal with your family at all. And, like, why would they give you back a job at their company? Come on now. So Ari pays her mom a visit, comes with a peace offering, basically telling her that, look, mom, I'm taking the job at the mirror. And Gabby's upset about it. Gabby's like, after I told you not to take it, I forbid you from this and all of that. And she's saying, like, look, like, I'm a grown adult. Like, I should be able to make decisions without your consent or all of that. And she's like, you know, I pay for your school fees and all that. And I'm saying that is guilt tripping, Gabby. And, as a parent myself, like, I would never, like, come in the way of my child, my grown child, and their decisions regarding their career. I can have my opinions, but I'm not going to control it, because at the end of the day, they're a grown adult and they have to make their own decision. They have to feel, right? So, as Ari, rightfully put it, Ari said that, look, I have to make my own way. I don't want to be seen as a nepo baby. And they look at my resume and think that, okay, I didn't work hard for nothing. My mom gave me it all. And, Gabby saying, no, 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 that's not true and whatever. And she said, like, come on, Gabby, you're in the business, And Ari said, like, look, you fought for this company. You worked hard. You built this company up without no help from your parents, nobody. And I want to, like, pave my way too. And, I want to see where it goes. And if it doesn't work out, like, at least you can tell me you told me so. But let me have that pathway to do so. And, Gabby is saying, yeah, you're right. I'll step out of the way. And I'm proud of you for being tenacious. And I know that you will do well over there, right? And, Ari says, thank you for understanding, and thank you for being the best mom, right? And I'm saying, like, at some point we have to, like, let go of the um control over our children's lives and everything, especially when they get older. And me being a admittable, like, control freak, I have to take my advice myself. Like, at some point, you just gotta let the reins go and let them do what they gotta do, right? So Johnny and Chanel. So Johnny comes over, back to the home, and he's telling Chanel about him actually taking this Demir CEO position, because at the end of the day, his family's out of the way, they have the security, and he has to do something about it. He doesn't want to feel useless, and until Theo gets back, he has to be the one in charge. And Chanel is not liking this whatsoever, because, again, a lot of the family members have been taken away. She doesn't want nothing to happen to him. And he said, like, look, I'm not worried about that. We got the security. I just got to do something for the sake of this family. So she understands, and she's not going to step in the way, but she's not liking it one bit at all. And she's already upset with her, just the medical results, and, just uneasy as to what is going to produce after the holidays, right? So that was really it for today's episode. Like, comment below what you guys think, who's behind this whole Demira takeaway. Like, who's gonna be next at this point? Is Megan, Dimitri? Because who else is there? Because it's narrowed down now. It's Stefan, Megan, Dimitri, and yeah, it still could be EJ. But yeah, comment below your thoughts on today's episode, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful weekend.